Can we stop calling them the alt-right? They're neo-Nazis and they're white supremacists. Alt-right makes them sound like a kind of edgy, trendy, indie subculture. They're not. They're just racists and fascists. And the thing about racists and fascists is we've had to defeat them before. Now, unfortunately, because of the ascent of Donald Trump, who lost the popular vote to the presidency, these fascists, these white supremacists, they now feel vindicated. They are full of triumphalism. Can I just put a disclaimer here? I'm no way saying that most Donald Trump supporters are neo-Nazis or fascists or even racist. Just not saying that. I'm making a distinction between the people who voted for him and these racists and fascists who feel emboldened by his victory. It's very important to make that distinction because there's a type of liberal who plays into the hand of the likes of Donald Trump by basically dismissing his supporters, often using classist rhetoric. They're basically thick, poor people. Now, that's not going to help, quite clearly, and it's not true. But we do need to take on the racists and fascists. Now, Richard B. Spencer is one of the leading ideologues of the American neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, who are now vindicated.
To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror.
He did a speech in front of his other racists who he'd assembled. What he did is shout, "Heil the people, heil victory," and then they all did Nazi salutes. He called the mainstream media
Lügenpresse.
Now, that's from the Nazi era. It means lying press. That's what the Nazis said. That's who he's quoting. And he said about the commentators who dismissed Donald Trump, he said, "One wonders if these people are people at all, or instead soulless golem." This is actually, as the New York Times reported, a Jewish fable about the golem, a clay giant that a rabbi brings to life to protect Jews. That's a direct anti-Semitic smear. He's basically suggesting the mainstream media is under the control of Jewish interests. How did he describe the election of Donald Trump? He referred to it as the victory of will. Again, he's just echoing direct Nazi propaganda. Now, Richard Spencer was described by Breitbart, which gives a platform to so-called white nationalism, as an intellectual. Now, the former editor of Breitbart, Stephen Bannon, is now Donald Trump's chief strategist. Now, David Duke is the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. He had a bit of a spat with me on Twitter. What he did is he quoted from an article he'd written laying into Donald Trump about his embrace of racism, xenophobia and misogyny, which had vindicated, I'd argued, the ugly prejudices that existed across the world, including, of course, the likes of David Duke.
I am your voice.
But I said there's another United States, which there is, one forged by immigrants. There would be no United States without immigrants. And the Americans, the courageous Americans, who fought racism, sexism, homophobia, and so on. He didn't like that. So he said, "What sort of these homosexuals? That's me. I am gay. Well done. Well observed, David. What sort of these homosexuals, like Owen Jones, pushing for Muslim immigration? Well, basically, we are witnessing 21st century Marxism." Not quite sure what he is saying there. I think he needs to look up Marxism for a start. 21st century Marxism. Now, some of you will go, hang on, this isn't fair. Donald Trump's not responsible for these people. Yeah, he ran a campaign which was absolutely dripping in racism about how he spoke about Mexican immigrants, Muslims, we could go on. Weird how they all like him. It's weird that, isn't it, how that is attractive to racists and Nazis, that kind of rhetoric. But they'll say, you know, you're still being unfair. Well, you see, Donald Trump, what any other president-elect would be doing with, well, any decency, is they'd be condemning in the strongest possible terms, without being asked about them, these people. You know, instead of having a Twitter feed which is full of him whinging about a theatre because a cast member of a theatre production in New York politely asked his vice president-elect to basically treat people who are black or gay with some basic decency and respect.
We are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us.
He hasn't mentioned any of the hate crimes being committed against fellow Americans by people who feel vindicated by the rise of Donald Trump. Now, some of you will go, come on, don't give a platform to these people, you're playing into their hands. I'm sorry, but we are in a very serious situation, and we can't just ignore them and hope they'll go away. We can't just stick our fingers in our ears. We've got to confront head-on what this problem is, and that is there is a march now of racists and fascists all across the Western world, and that we're at our most dangerous moment since we defeated the Nazis.
No more refugees!
My worry is what is already happening is normalisation of what we're seeing with Donald Trump. We see his tweets ranting about the New York Times or about his opponents and dissidents and all the rest. And it just kind of becomes background noise, as though that's just normal. When broadcast media, who are already normalising this phenomenon, you know, not just by using alt-right instead of neo-Nazi and white supremacists or whatever, but what will happen when these racist comments are made and they're not called racist, they're called controversial? Or some critics have alleged they're racist rather than calling them racist or misogynist or homophobic. What will happen is an epic retreat. We'll be sent hurtling back decades in terms of attitudes towards LGBT rights, racism and gender. Now, John Oliver's urged everyone to keep emphasising this is not normal. And he's right, because you're already seeing normalisation on an epic scale, and he's not even president yet.
I don't want to be just a little nice monotone character. And in many cases I will be. Sure I can. I can be easily. That's easier.
We're not going to get through these next 4 years if we, you know, treat almost with respect that this guy who's now president and all the pronouncements which will have an impact on all of us across the world, treat them as just normal. We shouldn't stop being chilled by this or frightened by this. But being frightened doesn't mean retreating. It means fighting back. And that's why I think in the coming years, millions of decent Americans, by refusing to accept that this is normal, that the movements who are now emboldened are normal, that we will drive them back. Because otherwise they will drive back all the rights and freedoms that people have fought for throughout history. And it will risk the very future of the United States, but also the Western world and, of course, the rest of the world too. So stop the normalisation. Stop accepting this as background noise, that we even treat as a bit of a joke. Look how wacky all of this is. It's dangerous. So that's what I want your thoughts on. How do we stop this normalisation? You know, how do we call this out for what it is? Maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts, in any case. I'd love to hear what people think we can do in practice to confront the menace of normalising what we're seeing, this horror, after quite the year. So leave your comments, subscribe. I'll see you next time.